I'm actually delighted to be sitting with a dear friend and industry colleague, Anthony Albanese from Andreessen Horowitz. Anthony, we've both flown all the way here from New York. Before we dive into Wall Street and crypto, why don't you tell us a bit about your background, your story, and what got you into crypto?
Sure. Well, it's great to be here, Maz, with you and with everyone here at TOKEN2049. Very excited to be here. So my background, I had a very unusual path to crypto, not the typical path. I'm a lawyer by trade. So in a prior life, I was a lawyer. I was a partner at a big firm, Wall Gotshal, and then woke up one day and decided that I could not spend the rest of my life practicing law. And so I actually shifted and I moved into government. And I launched the New York State Department of Financial Services. It was a new agency at the time. And it's the regulator for all financial services in New York State, state regulator. And I launched the agency, ultimately ran it. And then when I left there, I went to the New York Stock Exchange. And I was there as the chief regulatory officer running regulation. So I was literally working on Wall Street. We're talking about crypto and Wall Street merging. I was literally on Wall Street. But it was at the New York DFS when I was in government that I first became interested in crypto. We were the crypto regulator for New York State, and we actually created the first, we're going to talk a lot about regulation today, but we created the first regulatory framework for crypto. And this was early days. It was 2012 we started working on it. And that's when I just became fascinated by the technology. Wanted to learn more, wanted to get involved more. We created the BIT license, which has been criticized in later years for being so stringent. But at the time, the intent was to be pro-innovative and to be pro-innovation. And I actually signed New York's first BIT license, which went to Circle, which is now a booming public company. But anyway, that's my story. And then somehow when I left the New York Stock Exchange, I was determined to get into crypto, and I found my way to Andreessen Horowitz.
And that's a premier place to be at. Well done. So you're currently the COO. What does that entail, and how do you work with portfolio companies?
Sure. So I'm the COO of A16Z Crypto, our crypto fund. And basically, when we invest, we don't just write a check. We become partners with our portfolio companies. And at our fund, we have a huge operations team. So I'm COO, I oversee operations, but we have a huge operations team that helps our companies with go-to-market. We have a go-to-market team, which you've spent a lot of time with and you know them. Our talent team, who's sitting in the front row right here, who helps staff our companies and helps scale our companies. And we have a great legal team, policy team, government affairs team. So I oversee operations. We work very closely with our portfolio companies on every issue they're facing and how they get from a small baby startup to a successful, booming company.
Excellent. And I can say at Revolut, we do work with their portfolio companies, and we're very proud.
Well, I'm happy to hear that. I'm happy to hear that.
Okay, let's shift gears to the present day. I can tell you at Revolut, we've been involved with crypto for almost 8 years now. So crypto is not new. However, we've seen our industry peers gain interest in the space, and there's just been a surge in adoption. Is that what you're seeing, and why do you think this is happening now?
So there's definitely a surge in adoption. I mean, this is crypto's moment right now. I've spent the past year with our go-to-market team meeting with the big financial institutions, the traditional finance institutions, a lot of the big fintechs. We've met with you. We've met with Revolut.
That's true. Yeah.
And we've spent the past year talking to them about crypto and what their needs are and how we can get them into the space. And the reason, and we heard the same thing across the board, the reason they haven't entered the space prior to now is because of the regulatory climate. It was just hostile, and in the U.S. and around the world, but especially in the U.S. So with the new legislation that's been passed this year, the Genius Act, it's been a game changer. So to answer your question, why now? What's caused the shift? It's having a regulatory framework, which we always knew would be the case, and that's why we've spent so much time in D.C., our government affairs team, our policy team. I've been down there fighting the good fight because we knew that if we had a regulatory framework, the industry would take off and you'd have mass adoption. And that's what we're seeing. So it's really two things, I think, to answer your question. First and foremost, regulatory clarity. And second of all, it's the infrastructure. I mean, the advancements in the infrastructure have been incredible. I mean, now we have transactions, because of blockchain, under a second, under a penny. So I think the combination of the regulatory clarity, the regulatory framework, and the advancements in the infrastructure has been an incredible combo.
I think that's a fair perspective. Looking beyond the US borders, what are you seeing internationally?
So we've been looking around the world to see where there are opportunities in crypto. And we have found that what we've determined is that right here in Asia, crypto is booming. It is taking off. We've been doing a study and just the usage, those holding crypto, wanting to do business here, launching businesses here, tokens here. So we've decided that we are going to increase our presence here in Asia. Okay. We're very bullish on Asia, very excited about it. And our portfolio companies in the US want to do business here. So we want to be able to support them here in creating partnerships, developing communities, community engagement. So we're very excited about it. We're bullish on the US, obviously. Great things are happening in the US. But so many of our portfolio companies want to expand here. We want to be able to help them do that, and we're going to do it.
That's exciting news. Welcome to Asia.
Thank you. Very excited about it. It's good to have that conversation sitting here in Singapore.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's look ahead towards the future now. I can tell you internally we're very excited about crypto, and there is a lot of demand coming in. We now have about 65 million customers globally, and we're adding about 1 million every couple of weeks. And the talk of crypto from our customers is just always on the rise. What are you seeing as future trends coming for the space?
So I think there are a number of trends we're seeing. First of all, stablecoins, right? I've talked about the Genius Act, and especially when we're meeting with the traditional finance institutions, they all want to get into stablecoins, and we're seeing a lot of stablecoin companies pitching us. It's very hot right now. The regulatory framework exists. So I would say, first and foremost, that is a big trend we're seeing. One thing that's so interesting is the Genius Act, which is the legislation passed in the United States, is the first financial services piece of legislation out of Congress in basically 15 years since Dodd-Frank, which was a reaction to the financial crisis of 2008. So it just shows you the magnitude of getting that legislation passed, and it was bipartisan, that in 15 years we had Dodd-Frank and now a stablecoin bill. So it's just so, you can't underscore the importance of it. But I would say that is, a major trend we're seeing now that we have the framework, and we're working on the market structure bill, which is called Clarity, and I think that's going to be enormous and create more trends as well, and more folks looking at decentralized finance, et cetera. So that's trend one. I would say two is tokenized assets.
Right.
We're seeing so many of the asset managers, banks, looking into tokenized assets, tokenized funds. And I think they're now finding a way to utilize blockchain with their more traditional asset classes and seeing the benefits of that. That's second. And I think another third trend we're seeing is fintech. Fintech jumping into the space, fintech companies like Revolut. We saw the announcement recently, Naver acquiring Upbit. So you've got you have the Google of Korea, of South Korea, acquiring the largest crypto exchange in South Korea. And that's very exciting. I mean, I think it's going to propel mass adoption of crypto. And anyway, I think that's the third trend we're seeing is fintech companies wanting a piece of crypto, figuring out how they can expand into the space. And I think the regulatory frameworks and clarity that are developing are really paving the way for that.
Okay, great. Well, if you look around this audience here today, I think we have a lot of builders, a lot of teams that are probably looking at various ways of partnering with institutional players or selling into institutional players or building with institutional players. You're sitting on the other side of the table. What advice would you give those teams and those projects?
Look, I think there are so many opportunities out there now. As we're meeting with the big banks and the big financial institutions, they're all talking about how they can get into crypto, But the one thing they lack is the infrastructure. And so a lot of them are talking about partnering with our portfolio companies. So, our go-to-market team has really done a great job kind of pairing our portfolio companies with the big institutions that are trying to get into crypto and the big fintechs. But a lot of them are also looking at doing acquisitions. So I think for the builders in this room, and just staying on topic of what we're discussing today, I think that the big financial institutions, the big fintech companies, they need the infrastructure, they need the technology, they need someone who can build it, who can provide it, who can sell it to them. So I would say, if that is the space in which you're building and you're working on, there are phenomenal opportunities. You should be looking at some of the big institutions. The two big issues that we hear over and over again are security and compliance. So if you can build in that space, I think there are great opportunities that lie ahead.
I can concur with what he said. At Revolut, security and compliance are just at the core of everything we do, and it's probably the most critical item when it comes to assessing any crypto product or company.
Absolutely. It is paramount, and it's what the government and the regulators are looking at, and if you mess it up, the consequences are significant, so we got to get it right, and it's just a big focus of what needs to be built today.
Okay, well, you heard it first right here. Anthony, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Maz.